Hey there, true believers. You're tuned into Baxter Building Radio via the Negative Zone feed, and you are listening to episode 50 of the Fantastic Four Fancast. My name is Nate Charles. I'm your host, and as always, I am joined by my co host. His name is Shane Murray. Shane, how are you tonight?
Uh, Better, I guess. I mean, my car can stop now, so that's always a good start.
Oh, most people have problems with their cars starting. Yours wouldn't stop.
Yeah, mine didn't want to stop.
I'm assuming you got some new brakes on that thing.
Yeah. My back brakes completely failed.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it had no brake pads. Like completely failed. So,
Well, I'm glad you're alive. That's
yeah,
generally not a
yeah.
good way to ensure that that keeps going on.
Well, I had front brakes, and they were cooking. They were hot baby instead of ice baby.
Fair enough. Well, I think as a general rule, we should probably make it that you replace your brakes every 50 episodes, right?
I don't think we have to do it that early, but yeah, my brakes were. I knew that like when I got inspected in November, they said I was going to need brakes by like this inspection, but someone pulled out in front of me. They stared directly at me and pulled out in front of me. And you know that it's basically a two-lane road with nowhere to go because there's no shoulder.
Right.
So I had to slam on my brakes. It literally my car hopped to the left. It went bop 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 into the other lane. Thank God there was no car coming the other way or I would have been dead. So that they could get out while they were staring at me and pulling into the road.
How considerate of them. Well, I'm glad you've got your brakes fixed. Well, I ran into you here a little earlier at our local comic book store. Um,
You're like, let's see
af-
if we can spin this on a good note.
after you got your new brakes. So, what did you end up picking up this week, my friend?
What did I get? I got the new Lenore book for Freya because that's her favorite book. She does read those. She doesn't read anything else, but she'll read those Lenore books. I got Barbara Gordon, Dork, Iron Man. Oh, Turtles came out this week. What did you pick up?
Oh, it was a good week for me. All of my favorite titles came out. I got, of course, Fantastic Four, Captain America, Doctor Strange, in addition to Space Ghost and Flash Gordon and Batman. And I finally picked up that second Spider-Man Superman special, so can't wait to check that out.
Oh, dude, I've been trying to get it, but you must have had it in your pull list because they haven't had it on the shelf.
I
So,
actually did not have it on my pull list. I thought I did. It did not end up in my box, so I pulled the last copy off the shelf, which was the Simonson variant with Thor and Steel on the cover.
all right, well, must have got some in because every I miss it every week. They get some like refills in, and I have yet to be able to pick it up. So that is my book that if I get out anywhere else, I will see if I can find it. I guess I could stop by that shop in Hughesville. Need to check that out anyway, I guess.
Yeah, same here. A little closer. And the guy who runs it, I met him at the Bloomsburg Comic Con last weekend, and really nice guy. Which, by the way, I know we've been talking about that show coming up on and off. Now it's in the rearview mirror, and it was incredibly successful. So pretty happy with how all that came along. Vendors had a great time. Attendees had a great time, which is arguably even more important. So here's hoping
Yeah,
we get to do that again.
I didn't have one vendor that had like that talked to me personally that had a bad time. Even like the graded guys, which I thought they were going to have, if anyone was going to have a hard time at that show, I thought it was going to be the guys that had like that booth. I thought was going to have the hardest time with the graded stuff because their stuff's a little more expensive. But they even said they had a really good show, so I was pleased.
Yeah, and speaking of those graded guys, I was talking to one of them, and eventually we're going to be having an episode regarding valuable Fantastic Four books and maybe a top 10 list about it. It might be a whole episode that's a Shane showcase. We'll have to see how that pans out. But we've got a couple things coming up on the show thanks to Bloomsburg Comic Con last weekend. Really excited to explore some of those opportunities.
Yeah, that shirt worked out like gangbusters.
The shirt that Shane is referring to is, of course, his Fantastic Four fan cast shirt that he had made one for himself and one for me. But he had the wherewithal to wear his at the show on Saturday. So
Well, that's because it took me forever to get you yours because I every time I tried to get it to you, something came up beforehand.
this is true.
Liam stuffed it in the bag so that it made sure that it got to you that day. So kudos to Liam. He's like,
Yeah.
Dad, I made sure I put it in the bag, man. I was like, cool.
Yes. Kudos to your son. He was very helpful that day.
Yeah.
Man, can you believe that we've been doing this for 50 episodes now?
No, I would have thought we would have been at 40. I thought that when we had that little fall hiatus that we would have missed some, but we really didn't. I guess we had some in the can.
Yeah.
So,
We haven't taken another one since. Not saying that we never will again, but yeah, this is 50 episodes, and really it's our 1 year anniversary as well. Shane, you were kind enough to go over our analytics, and I believe you got some information for us about where our true believers over the past year have been tuning in from.
yeah. So, thanks to multiple analytic sources, I do have our top four. So we have 59 countries that listen to us all around the world. Our top four is the US at 82%, the UK at 4%, Vietnam at 4%, and then Canada at 3, and then every other country is below 1% from zero point 0.7 to 0.2%.
Very, very
Would
cool. We definitely appreciate all of our true believers, no matter where they're from. But I would love to hear from some of these listeners that we have abroad, just to get some more feedback. Maybe find out what their favorite Fantastic Four stories are. We'd love to hear from you. Feel free to shoot us an email at fan4fancast@gmail.com. That's FAN, the number four, FANCAST@gmail.com. And yeah, we more than happy to share whatever feedback, suggestions, or just in general discussion you would like to have here on the show. So over our past 50 episodes, Shane, we've covered a number of topics, a number of stories. We've had guests and whatnot. Today we're actually doing our first top 10 list with the top 10 alternate members of the Fantastic Four. But out of everything we've done up until this point, do you happen to have a favorite episode?
Yeah, I do. Mine is episode 33, which is Mission for a Dead Man, which is the Johnny playing detective story.
Sure, when one of his classmates ends up going to the chair for a crime that he did not commit, as opposed to the many crimes that he had committed, Johnny goes out of his way to find out who was the actual guilty party. Great standalone issue. It's a really good choice, Shane. Very
Uh
unique one considering.
yeah, that was my thing was the fact that it is such a standalone issue. Like you could give that book to anybody, and if they have, even if they just saw one of the Fantastic Four movies, they understand who Johnny Storm was. Like you really don't need to know who Johnny Storm is. He's just playing a private eye, kinda. And it's a cool thing. Like there's not a whole lot of superhero stuff going on. It's just a cool detective story with Johnny just figuring things out along the way.
Very true.
Do you have a favorite one, buddy?
I do. Speaking of Johnny, he factors heavily into this one as well. My favorite episode, I would say, is episode 21, which is our Halloween episode. Yeah, Fantastic Four, Volume 7, number 26, Blood Brothers. I'm going to be honest with you, Shane. Doing this show, I have gained a newfound appreciation for Johnny Storm as a character. Before we started doing this, I could probably have said that Johnny was my least favorite member of the Fantastic Four, but he is definitely growing on me more so now that we've been doing this show. And him and Reed's misadventure in the basement of Aunt Petunia's farmhouse and the catacombs of Paris, just absolute gold, comedic gold. That they play off each other so well, and it's just a really fun issue. And it's also probably the first episode that we did that we based off of True Believer feedback.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, but who doesn't like a skull with a top hat going bleh?
Very true. The skull of the dread Mongaruth or Mongarath, whichever it was.
Yeah.
Such a great comedic device. But I also understand you and I believe, have the same runner-up for our favorite episode as well.
Yeah, so I do have episode 29, and I'm assuming you also are episode 29 when we got to interview the cover artist for the One World Under Doom.
Yeah, our
Uh,
interview with Ben Harvey. That was a very fun episode. Really just getting an insight into Ben's work as an artist and honestly the inner workings of Marvel Comics at this day of age was really a cool thing to hear. Highly recommend that for any of our listeners who have not yet listened to that interview. Ben's a super nice guy, very talented guy, super hard worker. Highly recommend you all check that out.
yeah, he was drawing the whole time we were recording, so that's facts. Super hard worker.
Now, I mentioned with episode 21 that we were working off of True Believer feedback. I'd just like to remind everyone that we are currently running a contest. It is a graphic novel giveaway. The way that you enter this giveaway is to go on to Apple Podcasts and submit a 5-star review for our show. And after that, go ahead and send us an email at fan4fancast@gmail.com. Again, that is FAN, the number 4, FANCAST at gmail.com with whatever username Apple gave you for on that review so we can verify it. And you'll be entered to win a copy of the Marvel Premiere Collection Solve Everything by Jonathan Hickman and Fantastic Four Full Circle by Alex Ross. So again, just go on to Apple Podcasts, submit your review, and then email us at fan4fancast@gmail.com with your Apple Podcast review username, and you'll be entered into that giveaway. So, Shane, a couple weeks back, we posted a poll on the Facebook group for the Fantastic Four Fancast, and we asked our true believers who their favorite alternate member of the Fantastic Four was. And we got quite the turnout on that poll. Care to guess how many votes we got, sir?
Uh, um, 900.
You're very close. 834 votes.
Well, if this was a Shane showcase, I would have lost. It's the story of my life.
So we had a total of 17 options. These were what we consider to be official members of the Fantastic Four by our own criteria. One of the things that you did was disqualify the members of the new Fantastic Four, with the exception of Spider-Man, who ended up joining when Johnny Storm was presumed dead.
Yeah,
But those members were the Hulk, Ghost Rider, and Wolverine. Shane, why did you choose to disqualify those three from our poll?
that was the new Fantastic Four. That wasn't the real Fantastic Four. The only reason I let Spider-Man go in was just, and we even discussed the Spider-Man thing because I was like, are we going to consider the Future Foundation actual Fantastic Four? Because it's like a little weird thing there, but you convinced me, so I let Spider-Man stay.
Yeah, because Spider-Man taking Johnny's place was Johnny's dying wish.
Yeah. And you got a
As
really
this
cool suit out of it.
He did. He got one of my favorite Spider-Man suits out of it, though not as good as Bombastic Bagman. But as this poll went on the past couple weeks, we had a lot of people add different options to the poll. However, again, these were not necessarily official members. So as much as I appreciate people adding Wyatt Wingfoot and Thundra and Impossible Man, and of course Franklin and Valeria and Elijah, they were never official members of the team. They were always more or less allies or supporting characters who got drawn into the adventure. Unfortunately, we did not count those, but we do appreciate the suggestion and we still appreciate you coming out for the vote.
Yeah, that's how hardcore we were about the fact that it had to be an official team member because otherwise this poll wouldn't have existed because it's Alicia and then no one else counts.
Very true. And Alicia didn't even get one vote. Out of everyone that you could have added to the poll, Alicia Masters definitely should have been there, and she wasn't.
Yeah,
So,
like I'm just saying, like Alicia would have been there, and Alicia, I mean, is, and we'll get to who my favorite one is for sure later on, but like my absolute favorite one is obviously Alicia, and I was like, she's not a real member, not a real member. I don't know, quotation marks, real.
Why the hell are you not voicing Ben Grimm? Because the voice you just broke out for it was perfect, by the way. You put me through that gravelly hell every week. Yeah.
Alicia. Hey, Alicia.
Yeah, yeah. Not bad, dude. Pretty damn good, actually. Anyway, we'll have that discussion later. Though, true believers, if you want to chime in and you think that Shane should take over being the voice of Ben Grimm, by all means, make your voice heard. I might win this fight yet. Uh,
He's been trying for a year.
so, out of our 17 options, I am going to go and throw out who else was on the list aside from our top 10 in the order that they came in. 17th place was Flux, who was dying of a terminal illness and was granted honorary membership into the Fantastic Four. 16, one that I can say I was disappointed did not make the top 10, was Darla Deering, Miss Thing, which was when the Fantastic Four were going to an alternate reality because their powers were malfunctioning. They all got replacements to help defend the Earth while they were gone, and Johnny forgot to find one. So he asked his pop star girlfriend to take over for him and had her don one of Ben Grimm's old thing exosuits. And I really enjoy that character. Haven't really seen her that much since Matt Fraction's FF run, but she unfortunately didn't make the top 10. She came in at 16. There is a tie for, I guess we'll say, 13th place between Devil Dinosaur, Storm, and Namorita. And then another tie for 11th place between Moon Girl and Jack of Hearts. So those are the official members that did not make it. Shane, are you ready to start the countdown for who did?
Sure, let's get into this.
Okay. So at number 10, with 0.72% of the vote, that's 6 votes, the Black Panther, the King of Wakanda, T'Challa, who, deb-
T'Challa.
who debuted in Fantastic Four Volume 1, number 52 by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby in April of 1966. But he didn't join as a substitute member of the Fantastic Four until Fantastic Four Volume 3, number 543, by Dwayne McDuffie and Mike McCone in May of 2007. I'm going to be honest with you, Shane. I really think we should dive into the McDuffie run sooner rather than later. Really good stuff. And I mean, I know you're a McDuffie fan simply because you love Justice League Unlimited.
I was gonna say, like, wow, you got me at McDuffie. I love Dwayne McDuffie. That's my guy. I'm a big Dwayne McDuffie fan.
Black Panther and his then wife Storm substituted in for Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman in the aftermath of Marvel's Civil War event. The first one, that is, not the second one that no one really remembers.
Like, oh, it was so bad. I never even finished it. I got like 2 issues in and gave up. Did you ever finish it?
No, no, I didn't.
Did you even read 1 issue?
I think I've read 1 or 2 issues of it, yeah.
It was terrible.
It wasn't great. Sorry, Brian Bendis fans, but that's just our opinions.
Yeah, like go read Ultimate Spider-Man.
So their joining was a twofold solution because during Civil War, the Wakandan embassy had been destroyed, which left T'Challa and Storm without a New York base of operations, and Reed and Sue needed time away to fix their marriage. So they move into the Baxter Building and form a new Fantastic Four with Johnny and Ben. Some highlights from T'Challa's tenure include aiding in saving Epoch, who is the master of the Protectors of the Universe, from Galactus and his then heralds, the Silver Surfer and Stardust. And that happened in Volume 3, numbers 544 through 546. And then in 547 to 549, he helps to fight off an incarnation of the Frightful Four, which consisted of the Wizard, the Trapster, Titania, and Hydro-Man, and also later Claw. And then the big one, the one that I think is super cool, is that in Volume 3, number 550, he assists Doctor Strange and Gravity in performing cosmic surgery on Eternity, who's only the living embodiment of the universe, therefore saves all of reality. It's a pretty stellar showing as a substitute member of the Fantastic Four, even though his tenure was only about 7 issues.
I mean, it makes sense that he got the least amount of votes to get on into the top 10. 7 issues isn't a lot. That's a lot of things that happen in 7 issues, though.
It is, but also there's people with less of a tenure who scored higher up on the list.
That is a ton of stuff that happened in 7 issues.
McDuffie didn't screw around, my friend.
Dude, I'm aware. That's my guy.
Now, case in point for someone who got a higher placement but was a member for less issues is our number 9 alternate member of the Fantastic Four, Bobby Drake, the X-Man known as Iceman. He got 0.96% of the vote with 8 votes. He first debuted in X-Men #1 by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby in July of 1963, and his substitute tenure was first referenced in Fantastic Four Volume 6, number 24, by Dan Slott, Sarah Pichelli, and Nico Leone in January of 2019. And we finally get to see the flashback of his tenure with the Four in Fantastic Four Volume 6, number 24, by Dan Slott and Paco Medina in November of 2020. Shane, have you read this issue where Iceman was a member of the Fantastic Four? I know you were a bit invested in the slot run.
So I own most of the slot run. I don't think I read that issue.
I read the issue today in preparation for this episode, and it is a fun tale. The gist of it being that Johnny briefly leaves the Fantastic Four due to an egotistical tantrum. He gets too much fan mail, basically, and says he's better than everybody else. And Ben cools him off, so to speak, with some water to try to bring him down to earth, and instead he just leaves. Meanwhile, Bobby has just left the X-Men in a self-esteem crisis because he found out that all of his Danger Room training sessions had the safety on, and he forced everybody to take them off, and then he got his butt promptly kicked. So he ends up assisting the FF who he comes across fighting AIM, and then he also helps them in the same day fend off a bunch of Doom bots, the Puppet Master, and the Red Ghost and his super apes. Then they end up in conflict with an interdimensional invader named I think it's pronounced Chankwesta, and it's televised, and Johnny sees it and gets all jealous that he's been replaced, and he flies to the scene of this fight and ends up more or less assaulting Bobby, which prompts Sue to put them both in timeout in their own little invisible bubbles. And once cooler heads prevail, pun intended, the Torch and Iceman use their powers in unison to destroy Chankwesta's hammer, which was his tether to reality, therefore defeating him. It was a fun little story. And though for years apparently Johnny denied that Iceman was ever a member of the Fantastic Four, he acquiesces at the end because really he just loves having that extended family. Really sweet, heartwarming tale. Fun little fact about this Iceman story though. This does actually retroactively make him the first substitute member of the Fantastic Four.
Oh, yeah, because of the flashback. Yeah, that would make sense.
Yep. All right, Shane. Moving on to our number 8 alternate member of the Fantastic Four. With 1.2% of the vote, that's 10 votes, Scott Lang, Ant-Man, who debuted in Avengers Volume 1, number 181 by David Michelini and John Byrne in March of 1979. And the following month, in April of 1979, he became Ant-Man in Marvel Premiere Volume 1, number 47, also by Michelini and John Byrne. He joined the Fantastic Four in Fantastic Four Volume 1, number 384 by Tom DeFalco and Paul Ryan in January of 1994. Fun story, sir. That issue is lettered by friend of the show, Dave Sharp, who designed our logos.
Dude, is that in? All right, so he is in the Epic Collection, Atlantis Rising. Obviously, we've been doing so much FF, I haven't got a chance to get into it, but I actually own that. It's sitting on the shelf, waiting to get cracked into. So I have some fun stuff to look into, I guess.
Yeah, people have mixed feelings about the DeFalco run, but I have nostalgia for it because it was my introduction to the Fantastic Four in comics. So, which, he did a bit of controversial things on that title. Case in point, Scott is hired on by Sue to replace the presumed dead Mr. Fantastic at the recommendation of Tony Stark. During his first tenure, just his first tenure, Shane, He assists the team in defeating Malice, who would possess both Sue and Franklin Richards, Zilm and his Earthshifters, the Dark Rider, Aaron the Rogue Watcher, Raptor, the Mad Thinker, the Crimson Cadre, Morgan Le Fay, and Hyperstorm. That's quite the roster of villains.
It is.
So I said that was Scott's first tenure in the Fantastic Four. He has a second tenure in the Fantastic Four, this time in Matt Fraction's 2012 FF series, where he teams with other substitute members, Ms. Thing, Medusa, and She-Hulk, when the original team departs for an alternate reality to fix their waning powers. Not only was Scott entrusted with overseeing the Children of the Future Foundation, he also defeats Doctor Doom in one-on-one combat in one of the more incredible and clever fight scenes that I've had the pleasure of reading in the past 15 years.
Man, you're gonna make me break open that Fraction book this weekend and read some of that. It's just sitting on the shelf. I haven't really touched it.
I enjoyed Fraction's run on Fantastic Four and FF. I do feel like FF was the superior title of the two. I really like the substitute Fantastic Four team he has.
I am a big fan of Scott Lang in his regular stuff. I've read at least the vast majority of the solo Scott Lang stuff. So I don't think that I would unlike him being on the team. So I really want to check this out because I like Ant-Man.
Well, there you go. You got your Epic collection and you got the Fraction Omnibus. Go to Tiny Town, sir.
Uh, that reminds me, I have to add to my list of stuff that I need to find. I need to find the other three issues of the Sword of Adam. That's on my list of stuff to find.
Yeah, it surprises me that we haven't gotten an Ant-Man Atom crossover.
Dude, that'd be so good. But it'd have to be some kind of weirdo like me that would write that because no one else cares.
Listen, there's people out there like who would be a good writer for that? Fred Van Lente would be great. I think he would write a really cool story with
I'm
that.
not saying that there's not good writers for it. I'm saying that no one's buying that book besides me. That's why it's not a thing.
I'd buy that book. What they can do the same thing that they did with Thor, Shazam, and Fantastic Four Flash, and just put it on either DC Infinite or Marvel Unlimited.
Because I was watching an interview because I had so many hours of free time earlier with Scott Snyder about like right now with the DC publications. They have a lot they don't have a lot, but they have more freedom than they have had in past years because of the absolute stuff. They have some freedom to try random stuff. So we're gonna get a new Dead Man book, which makes me super happy.
Dead Man's a great character. The more Dead Man we can have in the world, the better.
Correct. And I would love I don't know who's doing it, but I probably not the guy I would want to do it. But if there could ever be a Francisco Francavilla Dead Man book, can you imagine? Because he's so like pulp horror, it'd be so good. Did you ever read the Archie horror stuff that he did?
Wasn't he on Sabrina?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I read it here and there. He did good work with it. So, speaking of dream teams, Shane, since you've segued us into this a little earlier than I expected, but I'm going to try and bring us back on topic.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I got
Who?
excited.
No, no, it's cool. It's cool. I'm here for it. But who would be your dream creative team for the Fantastic Four?
Hmm. That's a great question. I've been thinking about this for a while and I still don't know because I don't trust everyone to get the writing down. I think that when we did Full Circle and we were talking about how Alex Ross has the characterization of the characters down, if Alec Ross would be willing to not draw the book, not that I don't want him to, but I don't want the book to take each issue come out once a year.
Yeah, right.
Alec Ross writing. I would love Alec Ross to write. If Sophia Campbell would go back to art and not just writing, Sophia Campbell doing the art. If she didn't want to ink it herself, which she usually does, Elizabetta doing the inks. And
Just to clarify, that's Elisabetta D'Amico.
yeah.
Okay.
And then actually I love Dave. So going back to Dave, I'd have Dave doing the lettering.
I was just
And
looking for a writer and a penciler, but you're going full out, man. I'm here for
um
it.
and if I could somehow force his hand, I would love to have Jose Villarrubia do the colors.
Solid, dude. Solid stuff. Solid stuff. I'm not gonna go that in depth, but solid stuff for yours, man. That is a chef's kiss of a creative team right there.
So what's yours, buddy?
Oh well, funny story. I want Alex Ross on there as writer. Um, I believe we discussed that last episode in episode 49 when we covered the first half of Fantastic Four Full Circle. He gets the characters. He gets the vibe. It's really great. Really great. And as far as an artist goes, I'm stuck between two, and they both kind of have a similar vibe, but not. So either Greg Capullo is currently working
Ooh,
with Marvel as the artist, or if you could lure him away from DC, Dan Mora.
not happening.
He's done work for Marvel before. He's
Yeah,
done
I'm just saying he's not leaving there right now.
but those would be the two artists that I would like to see. Maybe you have them rotate on arcs. I think that would be super cool.
Oh, like how they did when the start of the Turtles run, they did the a different artist for the first four books.
So I'm thinking back when they relaunched Daredevil with Mark Waid in 2011, they had Paulo Rivera and Marcos Martin rotating as the artists, and that was phenomenal. I'm thinking kind of a similar setup to that.
Marcos Martin can draw any book any day of the week, buddy.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
I'm
Dude's
there.
amazing.
The only other person I would put so I love Sophie. So like that would be my one, but if I had to have a backup artist on that, it would be Ben Bishop.
Okay,
He did a lot of stuff. He still does covers with Eastman for the Turtle stuff, but he did a lot of the Last Ronin. He did a lot of Last Ronin stuff.
okay. Oh, solid choice. I like that too. All right. Well, we still got about seven members to cover here in our alternate members of the Fantastic Four list. Not to end what has been a scintillating discussion, and now I wish these books existed with these creative teams. But let's move on to our number seventh ranked member. She comes in with 2.16% of the vote. That's 18 votes. Sharon Ventura, the second Ms. Marvel, also known as the She Thing. She first debuted in Thing Volume 1, number 27, by Michael Carlin and Ron Wilson back in September of 1985, and became Ms. Marvel in Thing Volume 1, number 35, also written by Michael Carlin, but drawn by Paul Neary in May of 1986. And then finally, she joined the Fantastic Four in Fantastic Four Volume 1, number 306, by Steve Englehart and John Buscema in September of 1987. She had a lot go on in those first 2 years, she.
Yeah, it's a very quick ascendance, let's put it that way, for a comic book character.
Yep. She was one of two replacement members, along with Crystal of the Inhumans, who joined when Reed and Sue left the team to focus on raising Franklin. Shortly into her tenure in Fantastic Four Volume 1, number 310 in January of 1988, during a conflict with the electronic terrorist Farouk al-Fassad, she was bombarded with cosmic rays during a crash landing in Wakanda and mutated into a female version of the thing. During her tenure with the team, she engaged in confrontations with Diablo and Belasco, Master Pandemonium, Graviton, Kang the Conqueror, as you like to call them, the fedora and trench coat gang that all invaded Congress that one time, and Aaron the Rogue Watcher. Now, she's a little unique among our substitute members because she, in fact, betrayed the team to spy on them for Doctor Doom in exchange for him to reverse her mutation. However, when Doom considered her to be a failure, or rather betraying him, he reversed that mutation and actually exacerbated it. Reed put her on ice for a while, but after he died, she was released and joined an incarnation of the Frightful Four, but again, did another face turn after talking to Wyatt Wingfoot, who offered her space on the Kiwazi tribe reservation to allow her the time and seclusion to come to terms with, her state of being. So even though she's swapped allegiances multiple times since then, now I think she's firmly on the side of the good guys. Or maybe not, who knows? And she apparently now has control over her transformations. At least that was the status quo the last time I remember reading her. So,
So she can just switch. in the thing whenever she wants
Yeah,
to.
I think that's the current status quo of Sharon Ventura.
Well, I guess we need Mr. North to have an interaction with her current form so we can find out.
Yeah. You know what's important to me about Ryan North's run on this book? New readers are enjoying the Fantastic Four. And let's face it, the longevity of the comics industry and the longevity of the Fantastic Four in general relies on that fact. So, and
Uh
he wouldn't be on the book as long as he has been if it wasn't being considered somewhat successful by Marvel. So, I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but personally, I'm thankful he's there right now.
I can tell you just by going off our analytics that the average age that we get listens is from 36 to 45. So like anything that can get a new reader in, which is generally younger, is good.
Yeah. Let's take it to our number six alternate member, who came in with 2.76% of the vote, 23 votes. Frankie Ray, also known as Nova, who debuted in Fantastic Four Volume 1, number 164 by Roy Thomas and George Perez in November of 1975, and joined the Fantastic Four in Volume 1, number 238 by John Byrne in January of 1982. Frankie has a little bit of an interesting backstory to her. So, when she was introduced, she's pyrophobic, and despite that, she meets Johnny Storm and enters into a relationship with him. During this time, she discovers that she has this strange costume that would appear upon her whenever she was unclad, for lack of a better term. After being examined by Reed Richards, it was discovered that this suit, as well as her own flame based powers, were actually suppressed from her by a hypnotic suggestion implanted by her stepfather, who happens to be Phineas Horton. Do you know who Phineas Horton is, Shane?
The creator of the original Human Torch android.
That is correct. So her powers were lower level compared to Johnny's, but after she was allowed to join the team, she learned how to control her abilities with more precision than Johnny ever had over his. She was with the Fantastic Four for a few adventures, including one with the Inhumans, and the team actually considered rebranding as the Fantastic Five for a brief time. But her tenure with the team kind of abruptly came to an end in Fantastic Four Volume 1, number 244, when, in order to spare the Earth from Galactus, who was starving thanks to a betrayal by Terrax, she agreed to become his new herald. She was subsequently transformed into the being known as Nova, and thus breaking Johnny's heart.
Can I volunteer to become the Herald of Galactus?
What would your name be if you were the Herald of Galactus, Shane?
Hobo Sand.
Oh, God. So that's the first half of our list, Shane. How do you feel about taking a little bit of a halftime break here?
Sure.
So, we've had some news come out here over the past week, particularly in regards to Fantastic Four goings on. Probably the biggest is that there is a 5 issue event series coming up here in September by writer Jed MacKay, who is currently the writer on X-Men, and artist Federico Vincentini. This event series is called DNX, and it is a X-Men and Fantastic Four team up. Have you been reading X-Men, Shane?
No.
Yeah.
I'm reading stuff that ties into X-Men, but not X-Men. So I'm reading like Magic and Colossus, Rogue. I think there's something else I'm reading that ties in, but not X-Men itself.
So I have been reading X-Men. I've been enjoying it. You know me, I'm a Cyclops fan, so I'm following Jed McKay's series pretty closely. They recently just came out of the Age of Revelation, which was a future where something known as the X virus had been unleashed and either turned humans into mutants or it killed them. So the X-Men have decided that their main mission going forward is to prevent this future. Meanwhile, they've been fighting a terrorist organization known as 3K, which is led by a person called the Chairman, who is the beast of the Age of Apocalypse come over to the 616 universe, who has now decided that his goal is to make sure that that virus gets unleashed. So, DNX by McKay and Vincentini is all about trying to stop this virus. And Vincentini himself has not only expressed praise for what Jed McKay has been doing with X-Men, but also has expressed excitement over the fact that he gets to work on the Fantastic Four as well now. This is also going to be another True Believers blind bag project where if you want, you can order yourself the blind bag copy and get yourself an exclusive variant cover or not. It's the luck of the draw there.
I saw a really funny thing about that the other day about how that the blind bag thing was really they tried that in the 90s and it destroyed the comic industry and we're back to it again. I hope it doesn't destroy the comic industry.
Well, we shall see. And then our other news item coming out of this past week is Marvel's Midnight line. You and I talked about this a little bit the other day, Shane.
Yeah.
That line is starting with a Jonathan Hickman X-Men book and a Philip Kennedy Johnson Spider-Man book, but also Midnight Fantastic Four by Benjamin Percy and Kev Walker. I like Kev Walker's art a lot, not gonna lie. And I like the idea of a horror take on the Fantastic Four, which is, what's going on with all of these Midnight titles.
I hope Benjamin Percy has old Benjamin Percy writing and not current Benjamin Percy writing. I will always give Hickman stuff a try, so I'll try that. And Philip Kennedy Johnson is one of those guys that is either I really like his stuff or it's really bad to me personally. And Benjamin Percy had great Green Arrow stuff that I liked, and then it just went downhill.
On this book, Benjamin Percy, he has a quote that does amuse me. He says, "If you've read my work, you know that I see the world through a dark, disturbed lens. To me, it's always midnight. When Hickman called me, it was from a landline in the basement of an abandoned house with the wires cut. Blood poured from the receiver into my ear. I said yes."
See, now I can get behind that. So if he's gonna write like I know he can write, then it's gonna be good.
He continues, "When I imagined this other version of Marvel, a terrifying, poisoned universe, my mind immediately went to the Fantastic Four. This is a title I have always loved, but I would never be allowed to write otherwise. Now I could lean into my worst instincts and reimagine their story as one of cosmic Lovecraftian dread. I am joined in this by the visionary Kev Walker, who is hard at work bringing a new origin story from Marvel's first family to screaming life. I can't wait to share our nightmares with you. He's got me at Lovecraftian dread. The Fantastic Four is a cosmic horror story? Awesome. I am intrigued. It'll be on my pull list. I hope he pulls it off.
No, we'll see what happens. Maybe that'll be our Halloween book this year.
Maybe. All right, Shane. So that was a little bit of a news break there. Maybe we can work those into episodes going forward. But yeah, so recap of our countdown so far. At number 10 for our top 10 alternate members of the Fantastic Four, we had T'Challa, the Black Panther. Number 9 was Iceman Bobby Drake. Number 8, Ant-Man Scott Lang. 7, Sharon Ventura, also known as Ms. Marvel and She-Thing. And at number 6, we had Frankie Ray, also known as Nova. Are you ready for number 5?
Yeah.
So coming in fifth place with 5.52% of the vote, a total of 46 votes, Luke Cage, who debuted in Hero for Hire, Volume 1, Number 1, by Archie Goodwin and George Tuska in June of 1972. And he joined the Fantastic Four in Fantastic Four Volume 1, Number 168, by Roy Thomas and Rich Buckler in March of 1976. And in doing so, he really lived up to his moniker as a hero for hire because he was hired by Reed Richards to join the team after Ben Grimm mutated back to his human form. And he helps the team in his initial outing toward a bank heist by the Wrecker. But his tenure ends almost immediately after he is overtaken by the Puppet Master and attempts to kill his new teammates. Following which, Ben retakes his place in the Fantastic Four after being outfitted with the aforementioned Thing Lake exosuit that was eventually passed on to Darla Deering, and he engaged Luke in combat. So, yeah, I think Luke's tenure lasts all of 3 issues, Shane.
Is it even 3 issues?
It's 168 to 170. One of our true believers, Brendan Tobin, actually quoted that he would have liked to have voted for Luke Cage, but his run as an FF member wasn't so successful. So he ended up going with another choice that we will get to here later on the list. Fun fact about Luke Cage, though, as a member of the Fantastic Four, his salary all went to charity.
Yeah. Luke Cage is a good guy.
Well, that brings us to our top four, Shane. You could make a Fantastic Four team out of these choices alone.
He really could.
At the number 4 slot with 6.47% of the vote, which was 54 votes. You have the one, the only, the amazing, the spectacular, the web of? No, no, this is not a good adjective. Spider-Man. Peter Parker, Marvel's cash cow character, debuted in Amazing Fantasy Volume 1, number 15 by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko in June of 1962, and joined the Fantastic Four in Amazing Spider-Man Volume 2, number 657 by Dan Slott, Marcos Martin, Ty Templeton, Nuno Platti, and Stefano Caselli in May of 2011. Spidey came in as a replacement for the Human Torch after Johnny's presumed death while keeping the Annihilation Wave from evading Earth out of the negative zone, thus fulfilling Johnny's dying wish, as we previously said. Highlights from Spidey's tenure with the team include helping to thwart the plans of an evil Reed Richards from an alternate dimension and a confrontation with the Sinister Six in the Caribbean that covered for a heist at the Baxter Building. He left the team shortly after the Torch's return, having taken part in the defense of Earth from the Mad Celestials, the Annihilation Wave, and the Kree simultaneously, which was an epic wrap up to Hickman's run on the title.
Yeah, it was. It really was. Dude, do you remember when this book was coming out?
I do.
I was still not back here yet. So I was driving every Wednesday as soon as I could get off work, an hour away just to pick this book up every time it came out. Like sometimes I would skip a week to drive that hour drive, but if I knew it was a Future Foundation week, I was definitely going to Scranton to pick that book up.
Yeah, such a good time. There are just periods of time as a comics reader when you just have that one series that hits all those right notes, and that Wednesday a month that it comes out is just it's the day of that month. And
Yeah, that book spoke to me in like a way that it's been a minute since I've had a book that's hit me with such happiness and joy every Wednesday like that book does. Like I have a few books I pick up, now I pick up my books on Thursday, but I have a few books that I'll like tonight we'll get off this and I might go read. Like the Diork book, the Dork, whatever you want to call it. That's like the first book I get off my stack. That book's hilarious. And then that and like action. I really like what they're doing with action right now. And Supergirl, or like Supergirl might be my favorite ongoing right now. And ironically, Sophie Campbell is writing
actually,
that.
nice. Mad respect with that. Mine's tied between Fantastic Four and Captain America, honestly. I gotta throw Uncanny X-Men up there. Gail Simone's doing incredible things with Uncanny X-Men right now. You know, here's a character that I would really love for Gail Simone to tackle a little bit more in depth, which is our number 3 alternate Fantastic Four member, Medusa,
Oh,
coming in with 7.79% of the votes with 65 votes.
Gale writing Medusa would be super cool. Like mini series or even like a longer. I don't know how long she would have on like an Inhuman run, but her writing Medusa would be dope.
Absolutely. Medusa debuted in Fantastic Four, Volume 1, number 36 by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby in March of 1965, and joined the team in Fantastic Four, Volume 1, number 132 by Roy Thomas and John Buscema in March of 1973. Initially, she was an amnesiac member of the Frightful Four, and later the Queen of the Inhumans. She replaces Sue after her departure due to her dissatisfaction with her position on the team, which also led to her having marital issues with Reed. Medusa assists the team in confrontations with Omega the Ultimate Alpha, which honestly sounds like a looks maxing person. I don't like it. The Frightful Four, and her own spot having been filled by Thunder on that team, Dragon Man, the Shaper of Worlds, Miracle Man, Annihilus, Doctor Doom, and Namor the Submariner. After fighting all those villains, I'd say perhaps her greatest feat was the role she played in convincing Sue and Ree to reconcile. So she had pretty eventful first tenure, to say nothing of her second tenure, which again was during that Matt Fraction FF run in 2012, where she helped oversee the Future Foundation with Ant-Man, She-Hulk, and Ms. Thing.
It's really funny because I'm looking at our little list here, and the next person is just going back to that Inhuman thing. I would love Gale to write Inhumans for a while.
Absolutely, because she would be able to handle our number two character as well. Crystal, who, let me tell you something, Shane. Like, I'm very familiar with Crystal, but as I was building this list, I may have decided that I'm not as big a fan of Crystal as a character as I once was. It's like a serial cheater.
For sure. Absolutely, 100%. So she's a cool character in the fact that she fits into a lot of roles for Marvel that they need her to be, but she's definitely a serial cheater. She has some. I would love for someone like her to have like a newer solo book, or I would love an Inhumans book in general that would just maybe fix some of this stuff.
Yeah, honestly though, I think the serial cheating thing we can more or less hold Steve Englehart responsible for. Would love to have a chance to talk to Steve Englehart about that particular character choice with Crystal, especially after he wrote her both in The Vision and the Scarlet Witch and in her second tenure in the Fantastic Four, doing some dubious things. But Crystal slides into our number two slot with 20.26% of the vote. Now, I mean, let's be real here. So it's actually kind of funny. The top two finishers combined have 69.3% of the entire poll. These are two very loved characters in Fantastic Four lore. Whereas, after our top five, the vote totals dropped off dramatically. The top two are runaways. Like, it's pretty insane. Crystal made her debut in Fantastic Four Volume 1, number 45 by Stanley and Jack Kirby in December of 1965, and then joined the team in Fantastic Four Volume 1, number 81, also by Lee and Kirby in December of 1968. So, 3 years to the month of her debut, she joins the team, where she substitutes for Sue Storm after the birth of Franklin Richards. She's already familiar with the team, and at that point, she was in a relationship with Johnny Storm. Initially, Reed is unsure of her inclusion due to her lack of control of her elemental powers and her young age, but she quickly wins him over as her presence on the team upsets the revenge plot of the wizard in her first adventure. She then helps to fend off Maximus the Mad, Doctor Doom, the Mole Man, the Frightful Four, the Thinker, the Magia, and a whole slew of villains in Fantastic Four Volume 1, number 100. However, she's forced to leave the team initially in issue 105 because Earth's pollution is proving toxic to the Inhumans. This actually eventually leads directly to her meeting her future husband, the mutant speedster Quicksilver. She then comes back for a second tenure in Steve Englehart's run in Fantastic Four Volume 1, number 305, which happens to be drawn by John Buscema. She's at that point enduring some relationship issues with Quicksilver, so she seeks to renew her relationship with Johnny Storm, only to be rebuked by him because at that point he was married to Alicia Masters. Or was he?
Now we know that he wasn't married to Alicia Masters. You stop it. That I don't want to talk about that. We'll get there when we get there. I don't want to talk about that right now. We're in a good day. Don't ruin it with that.
During her second tenure, she encounters Doctor Doom, Diablo, Fasoud, Belasco, and Master Pandemonium. But after being rejected by Johnny, Crystal does leave the team for a second time to return to the Inhuman royal family in the wake of the Evolutionary War in Fantastic Four Annual number 21 in September of 1988. She's currently married but separated from Ronan the Accuser.
That seems like the worst marriage ever.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you read it honestly, she really helped Ronan turn over a new leaf as a character. He's a much more noble character these days. It's very strange if you come into it blind, but if you read the relationship between him and Crystal, which starts off more or less as an arranged marriage, which I'm not okay with, but it's the old adage, I can change him, which we know is pure fantasy, but this is comic books, baby. Which brings us, Shane, to the top slot.
Yeah.
Now, Crystal, we said, was a runaway with 20.26% of the vote. Number one leaves her in the dust by a country mile, coming
Yeah.
in with 49.04% of the vote. 409 votes, Shane. Jennifer Walters, the sensational She-Hulk. Could it be anybody else?
No. And if they ever wanted to make a Fantastic Five and make it be a permanent thing, she could go on there. If you're going to tell me that I'm going to be able to read She-Hulk every dang month, and the only way it's going to happen is in Fantastic Four, I'm okay with it. Because they just write like mini series or they cancel her books constantly. Like, if there's the only way I can get it is for her to be in the Fantastic Five, give me Fantastic Five. I want She-Hulk.
She is my favorite superheroine. Absolute favorite superheroine.
She's not my favorite superheroine, but she's definitely at least my second favorite Marvel superheroine.
Is the first the Scarlet Witch or
No,
Magic?
it's magic.
It's Magic. Okay, yeah, fair enough. Jennifer Walters made her debut in Savage She-Hulk Volume 1, Number 1 by Stan Lee and John Buscema in February of 1980, and then joined the Fantastic Four in Fantastic Four Volume 1, Number 265 by John Byrne in April of 1984, after Ben Grimm chose to stay behind on Battleworld, having discovered his ability to control his transformation post Secret Wars. During her tenure with the team, she encountered the Trapster, Charisma, Terminus, Mephisto, Doctor Doom, Blastar, and Annihilus, though perhaps her greatest challenge was that of Psycho Man in the Microverse, who imprisoned her in the mines of Nuvidia. She was separated from the team and infected with uncontrollable fear and starving until she encountered old FF ally Queen Perla. Upon seeing Perla in danger, Jen reclaimed her courage and joined with the deposed ruler to defeat the Psycho Man before the rest of the FF could intervene. She literally took him down all by herself. Though maybe her greatest challenge was that of magazine publisher TJ Vance.
Is this like She-Hulk swimsuit edition or something?
TJ Vance, Shane, for those of us who may not know, was the publisher of a magazine in the Marvel Universe known as the Naked Truth. And through a helicopter pilot flying over the Baxter Building with a cameraman in said chopper, obtained topless photos of She-Hulk sunbathing, I should
Of
say, on the top
course.
of Four Freedoms Plaza, which led to an adventure in Fantastic Four, Volume 1, number 275 in November of 1984, of Jen trying to keep those pictures from being published. One may say that she had mixed results in that endeavor. So those mixed
This is
results I was talking about, Shane, was that Vance did not inform the person handling the color correction that they were photos of a green individual, and therefore they were color corrected to look like a Caucasian woman, and therefore there was no way to verify that the pictures were of She-Hulk, and therefore she avoided any sort of controversy whatsoever. Mixed results.
that's funny as hell.
Thanks, John Byrne. Jen departed the team after Ben's return, but enjoyed a second tenure, again alongside Ant-Man, Medusa, and Ms. Thing, in which she also oversaw the Children of the Future Foundation. Upon the original FF's return, she left to join Luke Cage's Mighty Avengers team. Shane, I also should let you know that I did finish Planet She-Hulk last night.
Yeah, yeah, you were saying that you finished it, so that I am not glad that that book is over.
Me either.
But
I think every creative team that was working on the Imperial line of books over at Marvel got done dirty.
they did the opposite of the Simonson one of Acts of Vengeance with that book. They at least summed everything up nicely.
They did. They did. I will say she managed to take 4 to 6 issues of plot, put them into one book, restore Jen's status quo as a lawyer on Earth, plus managed to hold over probably the two best characters introduced in that book for future She-Hulk writers. I'm interested to see where we go from here. I hope Stephanie Phillips's tenure with She-Hulk is not done. Again, that's a book I would love to see Gail Simone on the regular is Sensational She-Hulk, if not Fantastic Four itself. I also thought that Rainbow Rowell did a fantastic run on She-Hulk. I wouldn't mind seeing her come back to the title at some point. Any of those three would be excellent to continue Jen's stories.
Yeah, I just
Just
hope
give me more Jen Walters, please.
I just hope that Stephanie Phillips gets a shot to write anything else at Marvel and they don't just put her on a back burner and she's just sitting around waiting for something. Because she had a good story going with that book. This is a thing that they do, and like both big publishers are bad with it, but I feel like it's really bad with Marvel because they'll just oversaturate with things that they think might sell. I wish they would think about things a little bit more, or like let them plot out a whole 12 issues before they just start trying to send them on the shelf.
If you like Stephanie Phillips, I mean, she did a dope run on Phoenix there with the most recent X-Men relaunch. She also did a fun Captain America miniseries called Cap Wolf and the Howling Commandos. That was awesome. So I recommend checking out either of those titles.
Yeah. So like that's what I'm just saying. Like and it's fine if we want to give her a bunch of miniseries. Like just she writes a pretty convincing story, and that's all we ask for at this point.
Yeah, really, tell me about it. Well, Shane, how do you feel about our top 10 list?
I feel pretty good. Is there anyone that you would change? Move up, move down?
So I, again, wish that Darla Deering, Ms. Thing, would have made the list, but I can't really complain with anybody who did. Maybe Iceman, but after reading that issue with Iceman in it, I'm not really sold on him moving down the list either. That was a fun issue. So I'm pretty happy with it. I'm not gonna lie. I think we've got a really good comprehensive list. I think it balanced out more or less the way it should. I am maybe surprised that no, I take that back. I'm not. Never mind. I was going to say I thought maybe Spider-Man should be higher. No, I think he's right where he needs to be.
I think
Maybe Luke Cage. Maybe I would move Luke Cage to position 7 and bump up She-Thing and Nova. That's about the only thing I can think of, but even then I'm not necessarily sold on that either.
so because we did this and people started trying to vote for Wyatt, and obviously I talked about the fact that we didn't put Alicia on the list. Is I think the next time we do a poll is we need to do the sidekicks.
Top 10 Fantastic Four supporting characters.
Yeah, Herbie's, Wyatt, Willie Lumpkins, Skip.
Skip Collins. Oh man. He's going to be number 1, Shane. You watch.
You
He's
son
the
of
man
a.
with the power, sir.
Yeah. I'm just saying it was a thing that came to me when I was like, I would just always like to talk about Alicia. I don't know,
Yeah.
but Ben's my favorite, and it feels like a package deal.
Franklin Richards, Valeria.
Yeah,
So yeah, no, I think that we can definitely make that happen in the future. I know we have another 5 week month coming up here. I want to say in July, so that might be an option. Okay, well, we don't really have a Fantastic Four of the week this week, but one of
sure we do.
the
It's She-Hulk. It's 49% of the vote. You already.
But one of our topics that we normally cover in our Fantastic Four of the Week is, of course, Most Fantastic Player, our MFP. Shane, you went out of your way to analyze our choices for MFP, and you have come up with the overalls for both yourself and I as far as our choices. So, Shane, I'm going to let you go first this time. Out of our first 50 episodes, who was your MFP?
So just so we know where this all stems from, is it starts on episode 18, which is like the relaunch that we kind of had. That's when we brought up our Fantastic Four of the week and we renamed everything. So I started from there. So I could have went back a little bit further, but it wouldn't really change mine. I don't remember if it would have changed yours. We only did it for a couple episodes before that. So mine is Sue. Sue, for me, has the most, and she has 6 times been my MFP. And it's usually Sue because she's not just protecting herself, she's protecting others. Even going to Alpha Flight where she saves all of them when the thing collapses. She saves a whole crowd when the building falls. She saves Reed when the ship blows up. She literally is just always saving somebody with a bubble. So she is super powerful. And for me so far, my MFP has been Sue. If I would have took a guess, I would thought it would have been Ben because he is my favorite. But I have figured out I just Sue has won it for me more often than not.
Right on, right on. Glad to hear it. All right, Shane. So, who was my overall most fantastic player of our first year?
So yours was Johnny Storm with 7. He's gotten it 7 times from you. So even more than I've given Sue it.
However, I think we do need to put that into context that we did cover 6 issues of Johnny's solo series, plus Mission for a Dead Man, which was a
Yeah.
very Johnny-centric story.
Yeah,
So, I mean, I can see that.
but even with that, so with the Johnny series, I have more of the side characters getting extra votes than you do, I think, because I definitely have we both voted for Hannah. I voted for Snow twice.
Okay.
I gave it to Sheila Donner once. Yeah, that's the 3 that we got out of that.
Okay. All right.
So Johnny is your number 1. You had 7 Johnny votes.
Okay.
Do you want to know who your number 2 is?
Who is my number two?
Your number 2 is Reed.
That tracks. That tracks. I mean, come on. How can it not be? Who was your number two?
So my number 2 is tied with Reed and Ben at 5. You have Reed at 5. I have Reed at 5. I have Ben at 5, and I have Sue at 6, and you have Johnny at 7. Now we did do a Johnny series, so there is that. So maybe we're talking about doing that Invincible Woman series. So maybe that Sue jumps up for you and jumps up for me even more. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I do know that the 2 issues that Alicia is very heavily featured in, we both voted for Alicia in. So Alicia, both from the 2 times that she was a heavily featured side character in those 2 issues, we both voted her MFP.
She deserves it.
Oh, she does. I'm just saying. You also have the one for T'Challa, which is from Volume 2. And then the issue with Skip, we both picked Skip.
Yeah, of course we did. He's the man with the power. Too sweet to be sour.
And I think the only one that we really, really disagreed on, if you want to go with that, is that we did that Ooh La La Badoon, the X-Men annual, whatever that was, number 5.
Yeah.
You had Colossus and I had Nightcrawler.
Yeah, but we both voted for mutants, so, you know.
Like neither of us voted for a Fantastic Four member. But otherwise, yeah, we're pretty close together.
Well, Shane, next week, I know you're excited for this one. We're going to be jumping back into Walter Simonson's run. Huzzah!
I am excited to get through the this Active Engine stuff and actually get to when Walt can write the way he wanted to write.
We will be visiting the second issue in Simonson's run, which is Fantastic Four Volume 1, number 335, which was drawn by Rich Buckler. As always, true believers, your feedback is important to us. We cannot thank you enough for voting in the poll that allowed us to put together this, our 50th episode today. We would highly appreciate it if you left us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast, because what that'll do over the next couple weeks is enter you into the graphic novel giveaway for the Marvel Premiere Edition of Solve Everything by Jonathan Hickman and the hardcover edition of Fantastic Four Full Circle by Alex Ross. So make sure to get those reviews in and then email us at fan4fancast@gmail.com with the username that Apple put to your review to enter yourself in that giveaway. You can also leave a comment or a review on Spotify. You can subscribe to us on your preferred listening platform so we show up in your feed each and every week. Important notice, we are now on YouTube and YouTube Music, so you can listen to us on there as well. There's no video component unless you like to look at our logo, which I don't blame you. It's pretty awesome. But yeah, you can now catch us on there as well. We're on Facebook at the Fantastic Four Fancast, where we encourage you to engage in FF related discussions and share Fantastic Four content. We only ask that you adhere to the group rules, and the most important of those is to be respectful of your fellow group members. You can also follow us on Instagram at Fan4Fancast. That is FAN, the number 4, FANCAST. And finally, you can contact us by email, like I said before, fan4fancast@gmail.com. Shane, do you have any final thoughts for our true believers this week?
Go read comics. Listen to our voices, I guess, but go read books. And if you didn't read any of this, like I didn't read a lot of this. I've read bits and pieces of like She-Hulk there and this there, but like the Scott Lang stuff, I own that book. I never got a chance to read it.
I can't say that I've read all of it either. So this was a fun list to put together, and it's definitely put some stuff on my radar that I too am going to go visit.
You are the
Hopefully.
expert. I am the shenanigans. That's how this works.
Fair enough, good sir. Fair enough. But hopefully we've turned you on to some ideas of some stuff that you can go out and read. Join us again next week, True Believers, for Fantastic Four Volume 1, number 335. Until then, I'm Nate Charles. That guy's Shane Murray, and we both hope you all stay fantastic.